And we're back with another episode of Diamond Download with Cardinal Jason and Mace Diamond. How's it going?
Dude, I'm doing great, brother. How are you?
Oh, dude, good. I know you're doing good. I know very well how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Excited to chat through this one. I think this is gonna be a little bit different than normal, but this is gonna be a great one.
Yeah, for anybody who's expecting three topics and just a round table and everything, you're going to be extremely disappointed with this episode here. We got some stuff. Okay, so Chase, you're dropping a course, or it's dropped already, right?
Yeah, and actually that's what I want to talk about. So as the time of recording this is like the quote unquote official launch. But last week I did like an early launch, which actually was not planned. It might have seemed like it was planned, but it was actually extremely organic and genuine. I just had a crazy idea when I was working on it late at night. So we could start
Mm.
there. Where do you want to start?
Well, yeah. So, like, for the audience, Chase is dropping a course, and I have a client actually right now that I'm like helping him like set up a launch and everything, and so we're both kind of in the trenches right now. I've also you and I together have dropped multiple different courses over the years, and so this is something that I think like we know a lot about. I also think that this is like just a way that people like make money now. Like there's a lot of course sellers. Um, but yeah, I think like I actually had a theory that the online education space is turning into like D2C a little bit, where it's like, you know how like back in the day, like if you had a D2C brand, it was like, whoa, he's selling online, like that's cool, or she's, her product is on a website, you can order it to your house. Wow, how cool is that? And then everyone started doing it, and now like everybody has like random ass subscriptions to like a bunch of different D2C brands. And it's gonna be the same for info, where it's like you used to think where it's like, oh, he bought someone else's course, he can't buy mine. It's like, no, dude, like the average like consumer of this kind of stuff, like buys probably like 5 to 10 courses a year, and like some pretty expensive stuff too, like up to like $5,000-10,000. Like a lot of people will spend a lot of money on all kinds of stuff. So there's room for you to do this if you want to drop a course. So if you're like a personal brand that wants to do this will help you. Or if you're like a freelancer or an agency that wants to like help your clients drop courses, then this will also be helpful.
Yeah, I was gonna say exactly. I think the three people it helps is the course seller, the marketer or copywriter working with the course sellers, and I actually even think like other industries, whether you're doing D2C or you're doing SaaS or you're doing something outside this, I think there's actually a lot of stuff that's pretty applicable, whether it's launching a physical product in terms of doing the hyping that we're going to talk about, the actual launch, kind of some of the updates. So I think this actually can be more universal than just specifically course sellers.
100%. So I think to start, um, the first thing that you need when you're dropping a course is obviously demand. You need to know that people are going to want to buy your shit before you start making anything. There's a
Yeah.
couple of ways to gauge that. I think if you are going to launch a course, you should either see somebody else doing it where it's like already sort of like validated. And there's like someone who, you see making some money with something and you think you can compete with them or do it differently or do it better. Um, or like you can just straight up ask your audience. Like I think you've done that before, Chase, where it's like, what
Yeah.
would you want to see me drop? You'll tweet like, you want to see an email marketing course or something like that. Like, how do you like find demand?
Yeah. So two different courses I've done. So the one I did for the e-commerce email marketing one, that one kind of came about a couple ways. One was a thread or two on Twitter where everyone was saying like, "There's no e-commerce email marketing course," or "Does anyone have a course like that?" And then two, at the same time, that was around the time that we were kind of trying to productize the knowledge that I had for the agency as we were about to scale. So I wanted to kind of build out like almost like a Loom library of videos for the internal team. So that was kind of the two forces for me was the fact that people were asking for an e-commerce email course on social. So I was just listening to, I guess, the noise and kind of the voices on social that were asking for this. And then also two, my team needed and was going to need this. So that was the first course. On the second course, I actually did what you're talking about, where I looked at the kind of the audience that I have, and there was three groups of people. One is kind of brands themselves, so ecom brands or SaaS brands, most of the time ecom brands. Two, a lot of marketers, so marketers that worked for these brands, marketers that did their own stuff, whatever that might be. And three, kind of like this copywriter, freelancer type of person. And I already kind of felt like I had that course for the brands, and it really felt like Sure, a lot of those people do buy the ecom course, but I felt like there was this group of my audience, so about 2/3 of my audience, that could or would buy something for me if I came up with the right product. So I kind of went to a whiteboard, threw up a bunch of ideas of like what I thought I was equipped to teach, and what I thought people wanted. And then I just started asking on social media in the form of like a poll, hey, would A, B, C, or D be the most helpful? And then as people asked me questions in the DMs, I was just being really thoughtful about understanding what they wanted. A lot of people ask me, how do I get clients? How do I sign clients? How do I send proposals? What kind of agreements do I need to? So I just started keeping like a mental kind of log and inventory of what my audience was asking. And when I tallied it up at the end, I must have had 100, 200 people ask me, how do I get clients in a kind of a couple month period? So that's kind of what I went with.
Mm-hmm. And it's also like, yeah, it applies to everybody. Like everybody,
Yep.
there's so many people that have service businesses, and
Yes.
they all seem to be on Twitter and LinkedIn. They all want to know how to get more clients. You know what I mean? And I think like the next part is also like, do you want to go low ticket, like super commoditized, or do you want to go mid ticket where it's like a little bit more specialized, but it's like do it yourself, like a DIY type of thing, or do you want to do like a coaching program where it's like above $3,000 is usually the ticket for that? And um, in your case, you wanted to go. This is mid ticket, right? What are you selling it at right now?
Yeah, so like the sticker price is about $700. I'm doing like
Uh-huh.
a pre-sale launch, kind of about $500, give or take, a little bit less than that. So, yeah, I'd say it's kind of like in that upper end of low ticket, kind of somewhere in the maybe lower to middle mid ticket, right? Like I think $507 is probably mid ticket. Like how do you
Mm-hmm.
think about that? It's high ticket 2, 3 grand over, and then mid tickets like 500 to 1500. Like how do you think about the kind of that gap and
Yeah,
that breakdown?
I think like under. Okay, so like you have, and this is important for people to know too. You have certain price points that you have to kind of abide by. If anyone ever wonders why everything is 27, 47, 97, 197, 297, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why you don't see 397 or like, you know, or 300 on the dot. You know what I mean? Like these are like anchors that people use because it's just where people are comfortable. If you're not there, you're in no man's land.
Yep.
So under 300, so like 297 and below is where you're going to see that's low ticket, right?
Yep.
That's something that people can kind of impulse buy. If they see like, oh, this is a cool skill that I want to have, like let's do it. I think between like 497 to like 1497, and that's still kind of pushing. That's pretty high. Um, I honestly think it should be capped at like 997.
497,
497 to
997.
9
I like that.
497 to 997 is like that's comfortable mid ticket where people are more serious about the thing that you're going to try and that they want to learn from you. But it's still not like a huge investment, right? But then you have like between 3,000 and obviously there's like nothing between like 1497 and 3K. Like it doesn't make sense to have anything that's like a course and not a coaching program that's that price point. 3K up to like 10K is like you can kind of experiment with stuff. Like people kind of at that point it doesn't really matter because you're being closed on the phone. Like you're actually hiring salespeople to sell this thing. But that's high ticket, and you have to have a lot more support in the community. So like with a course like a 497, you can just throw it out. You don't need a community. You don't need to ever talk to these people again. If they buy it, great. If not, it doesn't matter. There's no fulfillment. But above 3K, you need to have some sort of fulfillment. You need to have a community. You need to have a group.
Yep.
You need to do group calls. You need to like be there present as like the founder or the course creator, making touch points, like making sure people are good, and like adding a lot more to it. Um, and I think you also like you have to decide kind of like where you want to go with the price point first. But you went mid ticket. I know you don't want to do like high ticket because you don't want to like do a whole community. You don't want to do the fulfillment part. You just want to sling a course. But you also don't want to go low ticket because you think your stuff is valuable, and it is.
Yeah, I think I've lived in this mid-ticket range since I first started courses. I think, my kind of my core course has always been 750, and then I've had other courses I've introduced between, I don't know, 97 and 1497. And I really kind of like that mid-ticket approach that makes it accessible and affordable because I really am passionate and sincere about helping. But making sure that the course packs and delivers high ticket value. So I want to be a mid-ticket course seller for a course that actually is high ticket value. So I always want my courses, when people to go through it, to feel like they took advantage of me, right? I paid this guy
Yeah.
$500, $750, whatever it might be, and I got 5,000, 50,000, $100,000 worth of value. For every person, obviously it ranges, but I've had people that I've met that said like my course had made them 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures, right? I think kind of in aggregate, maybe some agencies have maybe made 8 figures for their clients from it. But I know people directly that have made upwards of 7 figures from my main course. So that was really cool to hear.
The email course has definitely made me in the six figures,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of interesting. And yeah, that was just such a monumental course when that dropped. Like that was just so huge.
Thank you.
That like I think it kind of set the tone. And so that's another important thing too, is like people need to understand like you you have a lot on the line when you push a course really hard. Like if you're pushing a course really hard and it
Yeah.
sucks, like you will get slaughtered and you probably won't have a good audience after that because people just know that you're not worth it. But if you have a really good course that changes people's lives, then you will have a stronger audience than you've ever had before. It's an amplifier. And so when you
Yes.
dropped the email course, everyone was like, Chase is the man, bro. Chase has done so much for this email marketing community. Same with Cold Email Wizard. When he dropped Cold Email Mastery, everyone bought that, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is the best course you could possibly get for 85." I got it at $85. I think I told you that way back, and like it really does, change the way people look at you. And so like you have to make it good. You know what I mean? Like you got to go in there and you got to do video modules. You got to like really over deliver, like you're saying.
Yeah, dude, 100%. So far, by the way, to recap, we've talked about kind of a little bit of like how to land on the course you're going to do, right? Some research, seeing what's on social, listening to people what to ask you. We've now talked a little about price, kind of the low, mid, high ticket. One question for you before we move to the next kind of section here. You had the course, right? Copy MBA. That
Mm-hmm.
was a mid ticket course, right? I forgot what it was. I think at one point it was like what 997 or something was kind of the upper threshold. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think you moved almost entirely to this kind of coaching, kind of mastermind, high ticket thing, right? Can you
Right.
talk at all about like that transition? Like, why did you do that?
Right. So we launched at. Let's tell the whole story. We launched at 497 or something like that,
Yeah,
and then like we were just selling it with our list, right? So we had the copy MBA list that was kind of like my list,
yeah,
and then we had your list that you'd spent years building up. So you had probably like a couple 100,000 on there, and we were just kind of like going back and forth, like promoting it whenever, like we I don't know, do a little sale or something like that, do a little like live. It was kind of like a webinar, but it wasn't. It was like a Q&A. And we would just like ask people to buy at the end. And so like we would kind of make just a random little sales. Like we'd send an email once or twice a week and make like whatever, you know what I mean? Nothing crazy. And then we had like a decent Black Friday, decent Christmas, and then I took it over because I needed something to work on. Like I
yeah.
had a couple of other projects that went sideways, and so I was like, just give me this and I'll do it. And then we started running webinars, and that was like we started to get the word out because that's a very we're going to talk more about this later, but that's a very effective way to sell a mid ticket. And on a webinar, you actually can go up to 1497. I've seen people go up to 4,000 just a piff on a webinar. You can do that. I don't
Wow.
recommend it, but I think like 497 to like 997 sweet spot still, right? So we're on there. We're slinging it. I think like 597 was the price we were at for a little bit. And bro, with TikTok and like organic traffic, I was able to fill weekly webinars where like we were getting between 2 and 4,000 people to sign up, and then 500 to 1,500 to actually show up. And we were
Yeah,
doing
that's
well.
insane.
It was like every single week that was all we would do. That was like how we made money. That was how Copy MBA made money. And then I realized, and this is after I fully took it over, that we could probably be monetizing these people better because there's just like more like we didn't have any coaching. Like there was no copywriting coaching. There was no one doing that. And I saw my buddy Luke at the time doing closer cartel. So he had like a 1497 he was slinging on a webinar, and then a coaching ascension. And so I was like, I should do a coaching ascension. And so I just like took the weekend and spun up as much course content as I could. I pitched it at the end of a group call for all my students that had just bought from the previous webinar. And I was like, if you guys want to sign up, here's the link. And I just started booking calls on my own calendar, started closing people, made a link on Stripe, and then would just add them to a Slack and like to extra course content. And that was kind of how that started. But the only reason I did it was because, and you, if you had the time, you would do this too. But there's so many people that buy stuff from you and want more
Yeah,
that, like you owe it to them. And before I hand it back, I'll give you an example. Um, you know Bo, right? Yeah, you know
yeah,
Bo.
yeah,
She's
yeah,
working on the course with you.
yeah.
She had been in Copy MBA for months and months and months. Like bought the course on a webinar, didn't do anything, and was kind of just sitting there with it. And then once she joined Inner Circle, which is like the ascension. She joined for coaching, and that was when she started getting results, and that was when she started hitting like 50, 60, 70K months, which is crazy to do in your first year of entrepreneurship. And she wouldn't have done that if I didn't have a coaching program. So like you add a
Yes.
ton of value by having that, and you also make way more money. Like it's almost not
Yeah.
even worth it to just do low ticket if you're going to be serious about it.
Yeah, a lot to unpack. In terms of like, and I know we'll talk about webinars, I guess, in a little bit, but in terms of the webinar, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were converting what 5 to 8% of people that showed up. Is that correct? Into
Yeah,
actual
around
buyers
there.
around there,
Depended on the week, but yeah.
around there. And then on the, I remember when you were doing it yourself on the booking the inner circle, kind of the high ticket thing. Didn't you go like 19 for 20 in terms of like closing people or something 18 for 20, something crazy?
It was like 30 for 31 or 32. Like it was yeah. Um
Crazy.
yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then on the bow thing, yeah, dude, she's a rock star. I think she got up to, I think she's doing like 74K a month, she said. And she actually
Mhm.
built like an entire course within my course. Like she delivered like today or yesterday, like 19 modules that was like almost 4 hours. It's like insane. Her course within the course is worth the entire price of the course. And then on top of her thing, we have like over 100 modules outside of her. It's like insane.
Mhm.
So shout out to her. She was awesome.
Yeah. No, she's a savage. But I am really an advocate of high ticket. So this client that I'm working with now that's launching this thing, he wanted to do a low ticket or a mid ticket. I was like, don't waste your time. Like if this is going to be a thing that you're going to work on and spend a lot of time on, go high ticket. All you're adding is an extra call or two a week, and you can outsource everything
Yeah.
else. You make a lot more money. There's a lot more value there to capture for like $3,000 to $5,000. So you get more of that, and your students get more. So it's usually worth it. I have a whole list. If you want, I have a whole list of stuff that I did. So I also want to talk about the tech stack, like the actual what you're doing here. And so this was basically. Can I jump into that?
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
Okay. So to launch a client like this, they need obviously a website, like a domain for the program. They need a ClickFunnels account. They need an active campaign account so they can send emails because it integrates easier with ClickFunnels. They need Stripe. They need a Zapier account. They need a Calendly account, a Typeform account, a CRM, and then tracking. So Hyros.
Okay.
You already have this stuff set up, so it's not super important for you to like basically restart everything. But like this is what someone who's starting completely fresh would need.
Yeah.
And you can connect other ESPs like Klaviyo to ClickFunnels, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
Active Campaign is actually better. And then we have the list of stuff we did for him was we wrote the VSL, we wrote the sales page, we found social proof. We basically farmed social proof. We build the application for the call funnel. So basically like qualifying people like, do you have money? Like, do you actually want to do this? And then we build the CRM, we set up Hyros, and then we write a bunch of emails, write a bunch of SMS, and then we place a closer and a setter. But in terms of like setting everything up, like you're just gonna host it on Teachable,
Yeah.
like you did that, right? Or Podia.
Yeah, I use Podia, but yeah, same thing. I know you used Teachable before, but yeah, same thing.
Yeah, you that's super easy to upload and everything. But the hard part is like building hype
Yes.
and like building, demand for this thing that you're about to drop. What kind of stuff did you do recently to generate demand for this thing?
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, my stack was way less thorough, so I think yours is definitely a better stack. What I basically did is like I use Squarespace for my website, so I built a landing page on my website. So it was like chasedimond.com/ client acquisition course or something. So I built a landing page out there that basically said, "Hey, this thing is dropping by the end of the month, and if you sign up and enter your email here, you'll get a special discount and be the first to know when it's live." Right. So I basically built a simple lander. There's probably, I don't know, maybe one or two paragraphs and then just like an email opt in. And then obviously with that, right, like I pushed that within my newsletter. I pushed that on social. I pushed that via my SMS list just to try to get people to specifically join that list. Obviously, right, everyone's on my list already that's receiving the emails, but I wanted them to take that action and that intent of actually going out of their way and kind of being introduced to some friction to enter their email into this thing. Right, that way I knew they were serious, and you always see a way stronger engagement and conversion rate for the people that actually do that. Right, the wait list, kind of the pre-buyers list, is always going to perform way better, subscriber for subscriber than anything else. So I have my website on Squarespace. You can use anything. I had my email account, and then I had basically my Podia, which was my teaching platform, and that had the Stripe and the PayPal integrated in, and that was kind of my stack. As I offer kind of colder traffic, webinars, and those things as well, I think it makes sense for me to do like some retargeting ads and make sure Hyros is set up, and maybe do some of like the webinar software that you had. What would you say for you? Like for me, my stuff was so dead simple. I already was using it, already had it. Took me maybe 20 minutes to set up everything. For you with like the new setup, the new build for this guy, what was the approximate time it took to set up, and what was the approximate cost? Like, did it take you
Well,
a couple hours, a couple days? Was it $100 a month, $500 a month starting out?
yeah, I think with everything, and by the way, not a lot of people are gonna need all of this stuff. I'm building it this way because I want him to have these systems for years. This
100%.
is not stuff that everybody needs. I think in total hours, especially writing the VSL, that took a long time. Like
Yeah.
writing the copy takes a long time, emails and everything. But like without that, because that's probably like 4 or 5 hours on its own.
Yep.
But everything else, 6 to 10 hours total setup. Um, Maybe 3 or 4 if you're really fast and you're ignoring like the CRM, Hyros, and stuff like that. And it's also going to contractors. Like I have people that are helping me out with this because I have other stuff to do.
Yep.
Um, but in terms of hype, so you have the email waitlist,
Yep.
but you're not only promoting it to your email list, are you? Like you're using socials obviously too, right?
Yeah. So I did social. And I actually want to talk about something that I did. I don't know that it was by accident, but I did this last week, which it wasn't part of the master plan, but I think it actually worked. So essentially, what I was doing is about maybe 2 to 4 weeks ahead of the launch, I just started kind of sprinkling in posts on social and kind of announcements within the newsletter. Hey, got something cool dropping at the end of the month. So let's say this at the start of May. And at the end of the May was kind of when I was planning on launching. I would start saying, got something really cool launching, perfect fit for freelancers, copywriters, agencies. Hey, here's that link that I was talking about before. Make sure you're on this list. This is the only way that you'll get a discount type of a thing. So from the social, from the email, etc. I think there probably was around 1,000 people that joined the waitlist. I pushed it a little bit hard, not super hard. Last week, I was supposed to push it really hard, but I kind of did an audible last minute where I've been working on this course super late at night. One of the nights late, I was like, screw it. I want to get as much social proof and as much feedback on the current stuff I have before I do the official launch, which that's happening this week. I'm going to do a pre-sale. I'm going to let people know there's no landing page, there's no sales page. It literally was the option to buy with just a list of the modules. That was all it was. I told people I'm still adding more. I think at the time there was like 84 or 94 modules. Right now, at this very point in time, there's like 124 with still more to add. I said, hey, look, I wasn't planning on doing this. It's going to actually benefit you. Here's why I'm doing it. I want to get feedback. I want to get social proof ahead of my launch. And it's just going to benefit you because you're going to get a price that's going to be better than I'm ever going to offer again. So I sold it at $300 instead of this week I'm doing it at $450. So I gave people like an extra $150 off just to do tons of urgency. I wasn't planning on doing that. I went fairly hard for about 2 days just doing that. And I did 149 sales on that at that price. So ended up being about like 44 grand from that.
That's
But
awesome.
most of the promotion is going to happen this week. So I'm hoping to do, just as many, if not more sales and at a better price point. So kind of going back to like the low ticket thing, like dude, like almost 150 people bought at $300. To get that many people to buy anything is really hard. And at
Mm-hmm.
$300, it's like, damn, if I just waited till this week at 450, that's an extra like, $10,000-$20,000 I left just on the table. And those people probably would have bought anyways. So that's probably the
Yeah.
downside. But it was just great to get the urgency out there and just to start getting feedback. And people are asking for things and they're leaving reviews and people are asking to affiliate it. So it was really great to get into motion. And it really kicked my butt in making sure that I got everything done ASAP because I was kind of lagging, dragging my feet, just making sure it was perfect and being a perfectionist. Or as soon as I hit that button for the pre-sale, I'm like, oh shit, the pressure's on. I got to finish this. So I think that was actually great in that regard.
Yeah. I think that's a solid launch. I wouldn't stress too much about like dropping it at a lower price because like I don't know. I feel like that's a pretty big difference. Like for the average person, like $150, it's a big difference. I feel like
Yeah.
that's probably the reason why they would have bought. Um, but what I was gonna say about launching, okay, so first thing on the hype, I personally believe that you can't it's really hard to over promote on socials. It's definitely easy to over promote via email. Like if you're sending
Yeah.
2 emails a day and it's all about the course and the launch and everything, people are gonna be like, "Ugh," like, bro, we get it. But on social, if you're sending 10 posts a day and you have like five that are about the thing, the launch, that's not over promoting. It's
Yeah.
50% of your content. You just have to up the content. If you're doing 3 posts a day and you're doing 3 posts all about the course, maybe it feels like over promoting. But if you're doing 10 a day, five evergreen and five about the course, you'll be fine. There are people on Twitter that promote their thing a lot. Promote launches hard. Promote even products they've had for a long time really hard. And it's not
Yeah.
annoying if the copy is good and they have other content that's not about that. So Hassan, Mr. Overpaid, I doubt you know who that is, but he's a buddy of mine. I met him down here in Miami. He has this group called New Money. He's had it for
Okay.
years, and he has done stupid numbers, like multiple seven figures off just Twitter. I've never been
Wow.
able to do that. I don't like Twitter as much for promoting stuff. I'd rather do it on video platforms like Instagram or TikTok or obviously YouTube. Um, but he's done well on
Wow.
Twitter. So have the Ship 30 guys. Pretty sure.
Yes.
I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure
That's
that's
because
how they make a bunch of money. I'm pretty sure it's Twitter.
I think
Could be
Twitter is a
wrong.
big one. But that actually reminds me, one of the things I did on Twitter was really interesting. I think I told you about this offline. Um, but basically, what I had done, I did this actually on Twitter and on LinkedIn, where I basically did this post, and I'm pulling it up right now, where it basically said, uh, deleting this in 30 minutes. Let's make a deal. I have an awesome new course launching next week on how to acquire clients for your agency or freelance business. I'm talking cold email, cold DMs, lead magnets, social media, and more. The course is really, really good. I'm still adding content and working on some formatting of the current content. There are 84 modules now, with another 20 plus coming soon. I want to get social proof and reviews ahead of launch. This is where you come in. Because of this, I'm giving off almost 60% of the course for the next 30 minutes. DM me ASAP saying course. And bro, I did that on Twitter and LinkedIn, and I had 300 something comments by the end of it on LinkedIn, and I ended up with like 150 DMs on Twitter. A lot of people didn't read the fact that I said I'm giving 60% off. People read it as I'm giving 60% of the course away, where I
Mhm.
actually put off, and then they're like, "Hey, you tricked me." I'm like, "Bro, read this again." They're like, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry." Like I had like 2 or 3 people that read it like too quick, but that actually was really effective. So I posted about it once or twice on LinkedIn, um, 2 or 3 times on Twitter, once or twice on other social platforms, and I sent like 1 or 2 SMS and maybe 2 or 3 emails. So that was like a good amount of promotion, but I didn't overdo it. Like I didn't want to burn the audience before this week. This week I'm
Yeah.
going to go a lot harder. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm actually going to take like more of like an educational approach. So I actually just sent an email right before this. Um, and I want to really teach in these emails and then sell alongside it. So basically, like today's email was all about how to attract your dream clients. And I kind of talk about like, hey, I've been deep in the trenches, growing freelancing businesses, agencies, signing, 1,000 plus clients all the time. And there's been one thing that's been super consistent for us, and it's been lead magnet funnels. And then I talk about like what a lead magnet funnel is, basically 6 steps to actually build one. So identify your client's pain points, create a high value lead magnet, design it, set up emails, promote it, optimize it, right? And then I'd say like, by the way, those are exactly the things I talk about in the course. I'm going to teach you exactly that. And if you're worried about the social media part, I teach you how to grow on social. So that's really like the approach I'm going to take this week is I'm going to be sending a lot of emails, but I'm going to make sure that whether people buy it or not, the email teaches them something. So either the A, they
Hmm.
feel appreciative and don't unsubscribe, or B, potentially they feel indebted and kind of curious and intrigued to actually buy the course because the emails were pretty good. So that's kind of how I'm doing like the promotion piece.
I think that's solid. The only thing that I would add, and this is only because like, okay, so I will say, for anybody who wants to launch a course, I know you're doing the numbers in your head and you're thinking like, okay, I have let's say 100,000 followers. If I get 2% of my audience to convert, that's 200 people or 2,000 people. And if I sell a thing that's $500, I'll make, what's that?
Like $1 million.
$1 million? Not gonna, not gonna happen. Not going to happen. When we did the Copy MBA launch, I almost passed out because I was so upset
Really?
at how. Do you remember that?
Well, so I don't remember the launch, but didn't we did about $250,000 organic in the first quarter, right?
Yeah, but we only did, bro. I
What, like
literally in
30?
my head
We're like,
manifested.
was it like 30 grand? How much do we do on launch?
I manifested in my head. I thought that we were going to do 100K in the first day. I was convinced. I was like, there's no way we won't. We launch it so we launched it at like noon. By midnight, we had done like 25K.
Okay.
And I was so upset, bro. I think like over time, like we got a little bit more in, but like I also was thinking like we dropped it at a discount. And I was thinking like, fuck, that was our ace. Like, how else are we gonna get people to buy this thing? And so, and I put so much time to, like, dude, that course took me forever to make. Oh my
Yeah.
god. And so I was thinking like, dude, that's it. Is this it? Like, is this all the money we're gonna make? Was this all for nothing? I thought that was it. Little did we know, like, whatever. But so you're not going to make the numbers you think you're going to make. I would say like keep your expectations low,
Yeah.
because even if you think you have this crazy strong, this is also when I was like doing pretty well on TikTok and you were, still running Twitter. Like we
Yeah.
had traffic and we had a big wait list and we launched it, and like I remember it just like not being what we thought it was going to be. But anyway, um so I was thinking that for a lot of people, you included, Chase, would benefit from doing like a webinar type of thing for the launch.
Yep.
And I think like it would make a ton of sense to do like a free training, and then you launch at the discount, Q&A, and then a ton of urgency. Like when you're on the live, you have to make it sound like the biggest deal in the world. Like you have to make it sound like, yo, if you miss this free class, this webinar or whatever, it's not happening again. You're never going to see it. This is no recording. There's no recording unless you want to pay me $1,000, in which case, yeah, you can have the recording, but you're not going to get it. There's one chance for you to see this shit for what I'm about to show you, and then get as many people in as you possibly can. Ton of urgency, and then sell really hard. Let's say if it's usually $997, you go $497 on the webinar. So you can easily get 1,000 people on there.
Yeah.
And like for a big launch where people have just been like, sorry, but blue balled for like the last however long, like you can get 150, 200 people to buy right there.
On the spot.
And
Yeah.
then you can decrease the discount a little bit over the next few days. Like if you do it on like a Thursday and you sell till Sunday, you can make stupid amounts of money. I think that's totally possible. And I think that's
Yeah.
probably the best way to do it. I think if you were to ever launch something a little bit higher ticket or something else, whatever, if you get an opportunity, do a webinar. It feels more guaranteed. It feels more secure, because really what you want, bro. And I remember when we launched Copy MBA, this is what I was thinking. I was like, I wish I could just like go into these people's, like, because there's all these people on the wait list. They were so interested, and then I send out the link, and they're like, well, yeah, I'll buy it later, whatever. I was like, how can I force these people to buy my thing now? I was so impatient. I was so upset. I was just like, how can I force them to buy it? Doing a webinar is the closest thing to forcing someone to buy something that you can possibly get. I'm very partial to that now. I don't think I'll ever launch anything else to my audience
Without a webinar.
without a webinar.
Yeah, and I mean, dude, with all the reps that you got so good. I mean, seeing the numbers go from like low five figures all the way up to like just about six figures on weekly webinars was like insane. I remember every week, I think I'd text you before saying good luck. An hour and a half
Mm-hmm.
later goes by, you'd call me and you would show me what the numbers were. And I was like, what? Really?
Yeah.
Like insane.
Yeah. And that combined with a high ticket too, like upselling to those people and
Yeah.
like running, calls too, like, dude, numbers. Like
Yeah.
this, like people need to understand that like if you have a really good course and a really strong audience and you're monetized properly and everything, you have an automatic seven-figure business. Like it's not that difficult, really. It's much easier than like getting the seven figures profit with, some sort of brand or with a software.
Yeah.
You can get to seven figures profit in your first year, almost guaranteed, if you don't mess it up, if you just like really try.
Yeah. Dude, this was
What do you
great.
think we missed? Do we miss anything?
So I know we talked about, all right, so kind of to recap, we talked about how to learn what to sell, right? Kind of doing the research, that part. We talked about like the different price points that you can live in between low, mid, high ticket. We talked a little bit about kind of hyping and launching. We talked about how you would launch with a webinar for something like this. You talked about the tech stack. I think that's pretty thorough. That was pretty good.
Cool.
Hell yeah.
All right,
Good,
Chase.
good episode.
Everybody, thank you for watching this. This is a fun episode. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments, and I will go and take those down. Chase will probably try and take those down too. But yeah, go and launch a course. Go scam. I'll see you guys next week.
Cheers, man.